You'd love to know how to memorize vocabulary at epic speeds, right? Whether it's for improving your mother tongue or learning a new language, or maybe it's something technical like law or science or medicine, the desire to expand your vocabulary is wonderful. In fact, you won't just get better with any language you want to study, you will get better at your memory just by learning how to memorize vocabulary. And knowledge truly is such a superpower, because the more you know, the more you can know. And people who speak better because they have a larger vocabulary, they tend to enjoy a lot more success in life. And not just because they sound smart and actually are smarter, but simply because they have more brain exercise. More of the lights are switched on. So let's have a bird's eye view of vocabulary memorization and get into some of the nooks and crannies in the details. This is Dr. Anthony Metivier from magneticmerrymethod.com, inviting you to smash that thumbs up, get subscribed if you're new here. And look, if you have hesitation around memorizing complicated words, don't worry about it. Just get started. This is an important principle. And also, I know that a lot of language learners, they say, yeah, but there's just so many thousands of words and so forth. And yes, there are. But rest assured, if you can't memorize 10 reliably, how are you ever going to memorize thousands, right? Focus on the basics, and you will be able to make a dent in even the biggest number if you're willing to break it down. So your goal is to memorize the sound and the meaning of one word at a time. Be willing to be that simple when you're learning this skill. Now, you also want to have a memory palace network. I suggest that you have a memory palace network created in advance. So what is that? Well, a memory palace very simply is a room like this where you're going to place vocabulary that you want to learn. So if it's something like architectonic tautology as a technical term, I'm going to create associations, put them in this space. Then later, when I want to get them into long-term memory, I'm going to refer back to it as few times as possible in order to get it into long-term memory. This is called encoding, and having some images there, like an archer for architectonic, to start triggering that off is going to help me recall back part of the sound and then, layer in the meaning. Now, we're going to use recall rehearsal very specifically. It's a form of spaced repetition that gets the sound and the meaning into long-term memory. But this is the key when you're using memory techniques to memorize vocabulary. You want to have sound and meaning linked as much as possible, and then use an optimal recall rehearsal strategy, or what is in science called spaced repetition. Now, if you have any doubts about putting these steps into action, please constantly remember that this is good for your brain. It's going to help build cognitive reserve, which helps fend off dementia and Alzheimer's. There's all kinds of science around this, and it is so beautiful, even just for your mental clarity. Now, when I talk about memorizing the sound and the meaning of words at the same time, that doesn't mean every meaning of a word. We're talking about starting simple, one meaning, or maybe two at most when we start. You can always come back and compound. Be willing to let the dozens and dozens of other possible definitions and usages listed in the dictionary go. And this is really, really important that you have that willingness to let go of every possible meaning so that you can focus on one meaning at a time. So, memory palace. Just a bookshelf in a room is a great place to start. And what you want to do is pick a word that you want to learn and then start to layer in images. So if we were to do something like constructio pregnans, well, that basically means pregnant with meaning. We could start with Cookie Monster and have him in space here, because constructio starts with CO and Cookie Monster starts with CO. And I want to have him pregnant with a dictionary, for example, because he's pregnant with meaning, right? And, just take a deep breath, relax. If you can't think of something for CO, well, you've got a couple of options. Keep relaxing until something pops to mind, or get involved in the magnetic memory method world. Do the training that's on the exercises page in the program, and you will learn how to have multiple images for every letter of the alphabet, and you'll have memory palaces for every letter of the alphabet as well. And you want to just get into the habit of seeing words that appear different, but see the similarity in all words. Now, you might be thinking, well, what about the Mandarin characters, Hansa, in Chinese? Or what about the hiragana and the katakana and the kanji in Japanese? Well, as a starting point, our species has cooked up little things called pinyin or romaji that help you just get started by using the Latinate alphabet. This is very, very powerful. So get started where you are and make use of what other people have created in the past so that you can use the alphabet that you're familiar with as an English native speaker as a leaping board to creating images. But understand that just coming up with Cookie Monster for constructio pregnans and then Prince for PR in pregnans, that stuff didn't come to me naturally. It came to me through training and using, yes, I use my own training materials. I had to create it because I read so many memory improvement books and they just simply weren't hitting the mark for me. So I figured it out, and that's what I've created in the Magnetic Memory Method Masterclass for you. And it's very, very powerful to just be able to look at any word and see what the spelling is and then have images come to mind even faster than you can try when you train your procedural memory to do it. Now, words have different syllables, and this is something to look at. So in constructio pregnans, what about nan, right? Well, nan bread instantly comes to my mind. What about Theo, right? Well, Theo is a name, and I can think of, I don't know, characters. Theo Huxtable, I guess I think his name was in the Cosby Show. You know, it may be a controversial figure over time, but nonetheless, all the more memorable as a result, right? So syllables are easy to deal with, and you just split them up. And I've had words like in Latin, expetendorum, and I have to think, okay, so expetendorum, you know, and really dig in there. And okay, so I had to take the time to have more than a few images in order to make it run, which in this case is an X-Man, a particular X-Man, Wolverine with his X, and he's at the pet barn, and he's got a 10 of spades on his claws, and he's breaking down the door. Expetendorum, right? And there's a bottle of rum there I think I had in the original thing. I don't even remember sometimes what all the images are, and I don't have to, because it comes off the tip of the tongue once that you use the processes we've talked about. The memory palace, magnetic images based on the alphabet, and then a recall rehearsal process. And the beautiful thing is you can scale the process very, very easily in a couple of ways. So what you do is you base them alphabetically, these memory palaces, and you just fill them with letters that start with that word. So a bunch of words that start X, 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 all in a row. And Wolverine, I just follow that guy around, and away we go. We've got all those words loaded and ready to be put into long-term memory with recall rehearsal. And, you know, you can add phrases as well. That's another way to scale one place in a memory palace by adding a sentence. So if we have expetendorum, we can scale it with omnium expetendorum prima essepentia in qua perfecti boni forma consistit. Just looking at my wife here, she's got a beautiful smile. Now, every single word, every single phrase, they have a little bit of unevenness, let's say. So please don't feel like you have to have this singular system. As Bruce Lee said, be water, my friend. Relax, be flexible. There's a little bit of a paradox that I don't know how to solve. Sometimes words look really simple, and I go, oh, I'm going to get that, no problem. And it turns out that the images that I chose just weren't as optimal as they needed to be, even though it's a very simple word. Other times, the word is quite complex, and for some reason, bang presto, it just slides right into the memory palace and then into long-term memory. So it's very, very important to realize that this can happen using these techniques, and each syllable sometimes needs to be treated very, very uniquely. Other times, you can just have syllables that slide into place so easily. What I'm trying to tell you is don't be too sure, don't be too sure, don't be too sure. Those are the words of the great Gary Halbert. Be modest and just take it as it comes, and be willing to sometimes, you know, take it on the chin and just fall off the horse, and then you have to get back on that horse. And it's just so much fun to approach it with modesty, humility, but also pride when you nail it, and then study what it is that you've done. Take that excitement of the win and study it so you can go, oh, I was very, very strong with this particular association. How can I do that the next time? Make sure that I'm just as strong. And then Just think about how you can group words together using the alphabet, like having a bunch of X words and then using an X-Man like Wolverine to follow that figure through a memory palace. So fun. It's so rewarding. It reduces the cognitive load. And keep in mind that there's an experimental part of using memory techniques. It's always going to involve you creating a laboratory in your mind and running experiments. That's why the memory palace technique is so valuable. So if you need help with creating memory palace networks, why not get started with the free course at magneticmerrymethod.com. It will help you with 4 free videos, worksheets that make it super simple. And then just commit to practicing by memorizing words every day. Words in your mother tongue, words in your profession that you need to master if you want to get that raise or that promotion. Words in any area that you know, if you have them memorized tomorrow, you're going to do better than you did today. It's very, very key. Focus on the words that help you improve what you're reading, how you speak. Be able to have pattern recognition when you're listening without having to feel confused or go rush off and look things up. Choose the words you want to memorize wisely, and you will be rewarded. So, thanks so much for watching. If you would like more on how to set up these memory techniques immediately without going to my website and all that jazz, then go ahead. On the screen, you'll probably see a little video for the memory palace next. And it's a little tutorial that goes into how to make a memory palace with some more examples of vocabulary. Thanks as always, and until we have a chance to speak again, keep yourself magnetic.